Shalom, shalom, Israel. Shalom, Israel. Uh, Everybody can hear me out there. Anybody in the chat, if I can get a one, y'all can hear me all right. If not, let me know. Make sure we don't have no technical difficulties and nothing going on. Anybody out there in the chat, if y'all can hear me, if I can get a one. And if not, let me know. All right. Let's see. All right, so what? We're the Israelite School of Universal Practical Knowledge, started out on 1 West 125th Street, Harlem, New York, under Commanding General Yohana. We are not affiliated with any other Israelite group or Christian organization. Tonight's class is our Virginia history class. Before we get into that, before we get into the actual topic, as y'all can see, the title, before we get into that, wanted to take some time today to just talk about the importance of knowing our history and being in tune with our history and the things that have happened to not only, uh, primarily the tribe of Judah here in the U.S., but also the other 12 tribes across the U.S., the so-called Caribbean islands, the um, Central South America, everywhere. It's important that we know our history um, because the lack of that leads to so many other things. The lack of knowing our history leads to so many other downfalls in our communities. Um, if anybody wants to chime in, Salaki, if y'all could give me some consequences of us not knowing our history. Does anybody have any idea what kind of consequences happen as a result of us not knowing what our history is? And not just obviously the history in the Bible is very important, but even our practical history, particularly in this kingdom, in this country, in this wicked society that we are in right now. Um, and anybody want to share any perspectives on the downfalls, the pitfalls that befall our people when we don't know our history? Oh, Salaki, we got Officer Yagadar in the building. Shalom, brother. I'm messing all up. I'm want to get into this topic so quickly. Salaki. Also got my river eye in the building. Shalom says, courtesy salute to the brothers. Shalom Yahabah Shem Shabakatah. Salaki. Shalom Yahabah Shem Shabakatam. To the sisters, Shalom Yahabah Shemar Lathan Bashem Yahushua. Salaki. All right. Let's see. Yagadar said it sets us up to be defenseless against the things that destroyed us in the past. All right, that is absolutely true. That is absolutely true because the reality is, if we don't, Salaki, we have to be aware. We need to be aware of the things that um, uh, led to our destruction, led us to the state that we are in as a whole, as a people. We have to be aware of those things in order for us to hopefully ensure that that doesn't happen again. Now, the reality is we're still in captivity. That's what we always have to remember also. We are still in captivity. But there are things that our history um, gives us the information as far as how we ended up or why we ended up in this situation, under these curses. And the 28th chapter of Deuteronomy, um, although it is a prophecy, it is good to know that that history is there, that these things were prophesied in the Bible, that it was prophesied that we were going to have sicknesses, that it was prophesied that we were going to be taken into captivity with ships, that it was prophesied that our sisters were going to have and I'm paraphrasing obviously, our sisters were going to have a evil eye towards their husband and towards their husbands and their children, Salakia. And it was prophesied that our brothers were going to have an evil eye toward our other brothers. And all of these things were prophesied in our history. And they're all a function of us not following the law, statutes, and commandments, right? But if we don't know that, if we don't have a perspective on that, then it doesn't help us to prevent or to get out of this situation. It doesn't, if we don't know that these things were prophesied and that's why we're in the state that we're in, then how are we to rectify that situation? How do we to get back in line with the Most High when we don't have an understanding of what we did to get out of line with the Most High, right? So Officer Yagadar is absolutely right. It leaves us absolutely defenseless. Now, that's also why we have these classes in the ISUPK. That's why we go out on the street and teach, because again, our people don't know our history, the biblical history, right? Most of us don't know. Most of our people have been in the Christian church being absolutely lied to for generations on generations. And because of that, when that truth comes out, oftentimes our people are so reluctant. They're almost angry at times when the truth of the Bible is taught to them. When they hear the absolute truth, that demon has then is a little uncomfortable. And when we were at camp this weekend, I think it was two different interactions where Big Mama came up and talking about what my grandmama taught me about Jesus and so on and so forth. And as soon as we started talking about these laws that they can't break, like celebrating birthdays, as soon as that stuff comes out, then oh no, I'm not gonna do that. I can celebrate my birthday. No, you can't. No, you absolutely cannot. And that ignorance, not knowing our history, not knowing what we did and our forefathers and foremothers did to put us in these situations is why we're so reluctant. We don't have that baseline. We were, so many of us were brought up just to whatever feels good to you. That's what you should do. That's essentially what the Christian church teaches. That you should have a relationship, a personal relationship with God, and Jesus knows my heart, and all of that, and the Lord won't put more on me than I can bear, and all of that stuff. Salaki is just it's taught our people to just only be responsive and only move and do a thing and not do a thing based on how we feel. That's it. It's just based on how we feel, what makes us feel better, what makes us feel worse, and we move in kind and in line with those things. And that in and of itself it leaves us in these situations because we're supposed to be following what the Most High wants us to do. We're supposed to be refraining from what the Most High does not want us to do. All right, so that's absolutely right. Not knowing those things absolutely keeps us defenseless. All right. Sister I said we marry other nations. Yes, that's true. That's true. Not knowing our history will leave us in a position where, everywhere we assume the best out of everyone. We assume that what they're presenting us, the representative that shows up, is the best, or is they mean us no harm. That's when you start hearing things like, well, there's good and bad in all, so-called races. Sure, that's a true statement. But when you get to know your history about what other nations have done to your people, then we should start to have a different perspective on these other nations. Sure, there's good and bad and all. and all races. That's fine. I don't think anybody will argue with that. Um, but there is a disposition, there is a difference between so-called blacks, Latinos, and Native Indians compared to these other nations. We are supposed to be set apart. There is a Bible, I believe, describes it a perpetual hateness. I believe I may be paraphrasing something, but there is and these things started. Uh, when Jacob and Esau were in the womb, we were two manner of people. Again, I'm paraphrasing, but these issues are ingrained in who we are, right? The Most High wanted it that way. But because we don't know that, and we don't know the crimes that these other nations have committed against our people, then we're okay. And we become okay saying, well, as long you love who you love, and the heart wants what it wants, and all these silly cliches that allow you to be ignorant to history, be ignorant and again defenseless and accepting of everyone and everything. That is a very naive approach, but our people have a serious problem um, with learning our history. All right, we have a serious problem with that. We're gonna let me see. Officer Yagaday, he said we grow up thinking our enemies are our friends. That is absolutely true. We grow up thinking that because Johnny, who's down the street, because when we're growing up, well, he was into Legos when I was into Legos, or he liked Dragon Ball Z and I like Dragon Ball Z. Because we had those things in common, and we're children, we get it in our minds that everybody's our friend. No thanks to Christianity. No thanks to Christianity and its false teaching of the Bible that God loves everybody. That's another way. If we don't teach our history, and we don't, we don't, we don't teach our history in the Bible, and we don't teach our real, I should say our real history because the Bible is our real history, but our more practical history that's in these history books. Not teaching both of those, it absolutely blinds our children. It absolutely blinds our children into thinking that everybody can be our friend, and we don't have to be guarded by anyone. That we don't even have enemies. See, that's a great point. We grow up thinking that our enemies are our friends, but we don't even realize that they're our enemies. Everybody's just nice, and everything should be roses and bubble gum and balloons all the time. That is not reality. That is not reality. And not knowing our history allows us to disconnect from that truth. All right. Okay, Sister Aisha in the building. Shalom, sis. Shalom. All right. Um, let's see. Obviously, like I said, we continue to do the things that got us into captivity in the first place. That is absolutely true. That is absolutely true. Let me get myself all the way set up. There it is. Water. Right. We continue to do the same things that got us in captivity in the first place. We continue to do the same things. And particularly here in this captivity, and Officer Yagada, I believe he shared this last week. We end up doing the exact opposite. We end up doing not the exact opposite. We end up doing the things willingly that we were forced to do when we were, when the slave trade was fully rolling. We end up doing those things willingly now, not knowing that those are the things that we did to get it to be placed in this captivity in the first place. We take on the customs of these other nations, which is something else that got us in this captivity in the first place. Absolutely right. Absolutely right. All right. Sister Coco in the building. Shalom, sis. All right. Sister Aisha said, I agree. Teaching that now while he is young. Well, absolutely, sister. Wild job, as you should be. As you should be. We have to teach these things as young as to our children as young as they possibly can, as we possibly can do that. Because obviously as we get older, we get more ingrained in all of these things that we should not be doing, right? We aren't aware of the things that we should be doing, and then by the time somebody is made aware of it, now you have to, as even in the security announcements, we say that the first 6 months that a brother or sister comes to the school, they are off limits because they are to shed themselves of the world. That's what we have to do. But to that sister's point, the younger we are able to teach our children these truths, the easier it is for them to well, the less that they'll have to unlearn from the world. It's just our culture. It's just like everything else we've learned, right? The reason why so many of us, before we came into the truth, celebrated Christmas is because that's what we were taught to do from a young child. The reason why we didn't celebrate, other things is because that's not what we were taught to do. It's that simple. But that's something that's difficult for us as we get older to then step out of that. Even as when you present, all the facts, all the rational understanding, you want me to stop doing something I'm doing already? Yeah, I don't know about that. I don't know about that. That's our natural defense. All right. Shalaki, hold on 1 second for me. All right. All right. Let's see. Trooper Kazaki in the building. Shalom. Y'all about Shabbat Shabbat Kathar, brother. Good to see you, man. Good to see you, brother. All right. Let's see. Obviously, Yagadah also said, not knowing our history also ensures that we don't know what to protect. We forsake our heritage for fairy tales and mythology. That is another good point. That is another good point. We are so comfortable giving away our heritage, giving away the truth of the Bible to take on Christianity, to take on Islam, to take on being a Buddhist, to take on all these other belief systems that have nothing to do with us, nothing to do with us. We don't know to protect our true history, our true heritage, because we don't know what it is. So we take on all these other things in this search to feel better. We take on astrology. So now it's not enough to get up and go through your life as you do every day. Now you have to go to, a newspaper or you go to a website because you have to read what your zodiac sign says, and now that dictates your life. That's reality. That is an absolute, as the brother said, that is a fairy tale and a myth. These things have nothing to do with anything. They're not true, but they make people feel better. They make people feel better. And so that's what we are on a perpetual search for, to feel good. This idea of happiness is one of the worst things. Happiness is like any other emotion. It comes and goes. It comes and goes. There are some times where you will be happy. There will be some times when you are sad. There will be some times when you are angry. All of it just comes and goes. But this perpetual search for happiness is something that continues to destroy our people. All right, and the disconnect from history is one of those main draws. Thawada, I appreciate it. The disconnect from history is one of those main drivers, right? Because as long so some nope, before I get there, Shalaki, man, that's another question. That's another question. Y'all give me some reasons why. So what we talked about is the impact, right? So far. What are some reasons that we have heard or that we may even just think as far as why our people, because our people, so-called black and brown, so-called blacks, Hispanics, and Native Indians, we have a problem. We have a issue with history. We don't like, we are very comfortable not knowing our history, right? And what we talked about so far was the impact of it. We're going to get into that some more. But what are some reasons that we may have heard from our brothers and sisters as to why it's not that important? Who can give me some perspective on what they've heard people say? Who can give me some perspective on things that they have heard people say? And while y'all thinking of that, I'll give you another one, another impact of not knowing our history. Another impact of not knowing our history is that we don't have compassion on our brothers and sisters. We cannot have compassion on our brothers and sisters. And give you a couple examples. We don't know our history, right? And if you don't know that this kingdom, the U.S. government, made a concerted effort to flood black and brown neighborhoods with drugs, then you will look at the drug addict like it's only his fault. And don't get me wrong, we all have choices, right? And we put the blame in the ISUPK, we put the blame where it belongs. We made a decision, and that decision has a consequence, and there are certain things that are going to be the result of that decision, right? But there are also other factors that can lead and encourage our destruction as a whole, as a people. But if we don't know that, or we're not concerned about that, or we're not interested in that information, then you remove all responsibility from the oppressor and put it only on the oppressed. You put it only on the oppressed, because guess what? If you weren't a drug addict, then maybe you wouldn't have robbed nobody. If you wouldn't have took the drug, then maybe you wouldn't be a drug addict. That's your choice. Those are the type of things that's a lack of compassion for your people. Again, but if you don't realize, if you don't understand the history behind it, then it makes it that much easier to remove that compassion, to remove that concern. Right. Sister I made a very good point. She said they don't blame the oppressor. We just accept I think that's life as it's given. I think that's life. It's life. Right. Not knowing our history does that. It just gives you life as it is. There's no perspective, there's no reasoning, there's none of that. Right. And then what happens with our people is this: once we get in a position where we're doing a little bit better maybe than the average brother or sister, oh, it's really their fault then. It's really their fault. I'm special now because no, better yet, I'm not special. This. If y'all let me know if y'all ever heard something like this. You might talk to a brother sister that's doing pretty well, and financially doing all right, and the discussion turns to I'm not even that special. So if I can do it, anybody can do it, right? That can be an encouraging type of statement. But there are some brothers and sisters that's not how it's said. It's said in a very derogatory manner. If I can do it, anybody can do it, which means if they haven't, then it's their fault. There's no consideration for history, and that's when you start hearing people say stuff like, well, I wasn't there, I don't know. We need to stop complaining and blaming the oppressor for the things that we go through. Right. Right. Those brothers and sisters, that's Steven from Django. Yeah, not my Becky. Right. My people bread and sliced bread. That's Uncle Ruckus from the Boondocks. That's exactly who that is. But these brothers and sisters exist in real life. They absolutely do. And it removes all compassion and concern for your people as a whole when you don't know your history or you're not concerned about knowing. All right. Officer Krishan in the building. Shalom, brother. Sister Nine in the building. Shalom, sis. All right. Let me skip back a little bit. Hold on, hold on. Let's see. Okay, as far as the whys, Sister Aya said it's too hard to face, and it's so long ago. That is two great ones. It's so long ago, and it's too hard to face. Now, too hard to face. I think we all can understand that, because sometimes getting into our history is it can be it could be a lot. It can be a lot to realize. It can be a lot to take on. It can be a lot to understand. It can be um, to know how wicked an oppressor can be can be a whole lot sometimes to digest, right? So I can understand that. But when people start saying stuff like so long ago, but no, let me before I say that, I can understand it being hard to face. But again, the reality is that the consequences are more dire. The consequences of us being defenseless, the consequences of us perpetuating and not understanding why we're in these situations, not understanding what has happened or why our community is where it is. The consequences are so much more important than the difficulty in facing it. That's where we have to get as a people so we can do better, so we can get back in line with the most high, so we can be more disciplined, so we can be aware that we have enemies in this country. And it's not about, listen, this idea of individuality, that's another one I hear people say when you want to talk about history and how it affects our people. They'll say stuff like, I'm an individual. I'm an individual. No, you're not. You are a person. You are not an individual. You are part of a larger community. You are part of a larger family. And people don't want to hear that because they don't want to take the responsibility that comes. There is a responsibility that we have to our families. There's a responsibility that we have as far as how we conduct ourselves. We have the responsibility to do the right thing so that our brothers and sisters don't pay for what we did, because that's the way the Most High judges. He judges us as a nation. We've gone over the when the people were numbered and everybody was unalive. I think it was 70,000, right? We went over the other one where the brother stole something that didn't had to be found, and Israel lost the war, and we went over all of that, right? And these things affect our people. And that's why we have to be aware that we are part of a larger community. We are part of a larger community, and we have a responsibility to that. All right. Let me see. Exactly. Exactly. They're YOLO. Selfish. You only live once. I'm not concerned with the past. I just live my life. I just live my life. I'm not concerned with the past, which is absolute nonsense. Because what that means is I'm not, listen, everybody learns from some kind of history. Everybody does. Everybody does. But when the history requires you to do something different, when it requires you to face something that's uncomfortable for you, that's when you start hearing stuff like this. I'm not concerned with the past. I just live my life. True, because like you said, they are comfortable not knowing. Absolutely. We are comfortable not knowing. And even that is part of our oppression. Even that, because our identities were stolen from us when we got here. Our true identities were stolen from us when we got here. And now we are comfortable not knowing who we are. We are comfortable not knowing our history. We are comfortable not knowing the things. Matter of fact, pull the scripture right now. Deuteronomy, what is it? 32 and 7. Deuteronomy 32 and 7. It says, remember the days of old, consider the years of many generations. We are supposed to remember the days of old. We are supposed to be aware of what has happened in our history, both in the Bible and since. We are supposed to know these things. We are supposed to consider the years of many generations. Consider the things that they went through. As Officer Yagadar said, be aware of what got us in this situation. Consider what happened. Consider what led to our communities being destroyed. Consider what led to our communities being overrun and it being a epidemic of drug addicts, of drug dealing, of sexual abuse, both in our children and with our adults. All of these things have a reason. Cap says it all the time. A curse does not come without a cause. We need to consider the years of many generations so we can have an idea of what has led us to this situation, to this point. But we're so comfortable not knowing. We're so okay with just not knowing. And as you all have said, we just live our lives day in and day out. And I'm an individual, and none of this applies to me, and then so on and so forth, right? Going on, it says, "Ask thy father, and he will show thee thy elders, and they will tell thee." Now, we all know our fathers. Listen, and the way our families have been destroyed, that is something that it's becoming rarer and rarer, right? For a father to be in a position where he can influence his child in a positive way. And definitely, if he's not in the Israelite School of Universal Practical Knowledge, he's not going to know this. He is not going to know this. But the elders, ask Salakia, thy elders, and they will show thee. Salakia, tell thee. The elders are in the Israelite School of Universal Practical Knowledge. That's why we go over these uh, 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 history classes. That is exactly why. All right. Let's see. Okay, we read that one. Salakia. Hmm. Give off to Yakadar hand, the happy Negro syndrome. I don't allow negative energy into my life and mind. Listen, this one, this one has our sisters burning sage. It has us again looking at horoscopes. It has us doing everything in the world except facing the truth and dealing with the truth. This again, that's this idea that, oh, I can't have no negativity around me. Well, you might. I'm not gonna say that. You don't have an existence where that's not the case. You don't have an existence where that's not the case because again, all of these things come and go. These things come and go. You're gonna be happy sometimes. You're gonna be sad sometimes. You're gonna feel like it's negative energy because it just is, and you got to deal with it. That's it. That's it. And once we get to that point, then we can have a better understanding. We can get a better grasp on what we need to do. But as long as we running, I don't allow no negative energy in my life. Come on, stop it. Stop it. That in and of itself is almost a drug. Officer Yakadar says it all the time that Christianity is worse than crack. Christianity allows our people to not know, allows our people to think that the Most High is going to give them positive energy in their life all the time. And something's wrong if they don't have that. That's what Christianity teaches our people. All right. Let's see. Let's see. Salaki. There you go. Officer Yakadar got all of them tonight. Say, ninjas just hate, and we need to love and heal the world. That's what they say. We don't need to be focused on history. That's just hate. That's negative energy in my life. Y'all hating just to hate. We need to love everybody. They don't even know what love is. Don't even know what love is, and they're telling our people they need to love everybody. Obviously, Yakadar goes over every Tuesday brotherhood class. The love of the Most High is following the law, statutes, and commandments. You follow the law, statutes, and commandments, then you will know your history and stick to your people and have a preference for your brothers and sisters. That's what we should be doing, having a preference for our brothers and sisters rather than just trying to love the world. The Bible said, matter of fact, Salakia, y'all bear with me. Where is this? Salaki, I'm gonna pull that in a second. Salaki. Um, but yeah, it was that we need to love the world, and we absolutely don't. We absolutely don't. We need to love our family. We need to love our family. We need to love the 12 tribes of Israel. All right. Let's see. Sister I says the oppression is glorified and they make the corruption a badge of wicked honor. The oppression is glorified and they make the corruption a badge of wicked honor. I need a little bit more on that. Give me a little bit more on that, sis. I think I know where you're going, but give me a little bit more on that. Oh, this is a great one. If I'm racist, I'm no better than them. Hmm. That is Stockholm syndrome at its finest. That is Stockholm syndrome at its finest. We are so concerned to not quote unquote hate the other nations because that's how they felt about us. And in doing so, we end up giving all of our love to them and none to our people, our family, our nation. In this attempt to not be as bad or yeah as bad as they were slash are because most people be talking they think this is something old. They were like that, right? Most of these people don't think these folks are still like that, and if they do, they think it's a few of them. They think it's only a few of them that want our oppression and want us to continue to be in captivity. All right, let me see. Rocky. Oh, everyone had everyone in slavery at some point in history. That's the nonsense that they say. Everyone had everyone in slavery at some point in history. Something else they'll say, some along the same lines. Slavery wasn't special. Other people were enslaved too. Like it was the same. And it absolutely was not. When you go back and start doing history, because they'll say, so-called Edomites were enslaved and so on and so forth. And then when you start looking at it, it was indentured servitude. It was not slavery. That's different. That's different. And ours was so brutal. It was so brutal and wicked and meant to destroy us. It was not, it was something new. And it was started, and we're gonna get into it. It was started by Christopher Columbus. It was absolutely started by Christopher Columbus. Isaiah 1 and 3, the ox knoweth his owner, and the ass his master's crib, but Israel doth not know, my people doth not consider. Exactly. We don't know. Our people do not know who we are. We're out here doing these classes out on the street, waking our people up. But it's so necessary because our people don't know who we are and they're not concerned about it. They're walking around blind, absolutely blind. Like Evelyn the Bad Witch. On the absolutely, I was a young and Diane, right? Our sisters walk around like the witch from the Wiz. Don't nobody give me no bad news, right? They are blocking it all. They don't want to hear nothing negative at all. They want to live in a fairy tale. Listen, it's the worst, and our people are so. It's like a drug. It's like a drug, and the Christian church encourages it. The Christian church will have you believe that you should never suffer. All you got to do is say you believe in Jesus, pay your tithe, and everything is going to always be wonderful. They're going to tell you that, and then COVID's going to hit. They're going to tell you that this is going to be your year to prosper, and then COVID's going to shut the whole world down. They're going to tell you that, and then there's going to be a hurricane. They're going to tell you that, and then there's going to be a fire. They're going to tell you that, and then you're going to be sick. You're going to get, high blood pressure. You're going to get cholesterol. You're going to have a stroke. Something's going to happen. Primarily because most of our people don't follow the law, statutes, and commandments. But even with that, our people will still be blind because it feels good. What the Christian pastor is saying feels great. It makes me feel so wonderful when I leave. It just makes me feel great. And I'd rather hear that than the truth. Something else people say, well, what does that do to know? Like what does it do? Okay, so I know that. I know history. Now what? Again, like we have said, y'all already said tonight, it's important to know so we can understand how we got in this situation, so we can put our defenses up, so we can come back to the law, statutes, and commandments. Let's see. Officer Yagdar says 12:09, 12:10. Okay, it's lock here. Now it says, let love be without dissimulation. Abhor that which is evil, cleave to that which is good. Exactly. We should be absolutely disgusted by anything that's outside of what the Most High wants us to do, and anything that we should not be doing. We should be absolutely disgusted with. Dissimulation. Let's look up that word and make sure. I know all y'all are super smart, so y'all probably already know, but I am gonna look this word up. Lock it. Dissimulate. To hide under a false appearance. To hide under a false appearance, meaning you're presenting yourself in one way, but you're actually being another. Love should be without dissimulation. It shouldn't be with a false appearance. It should be upfront and clear. The Bible also says, "Let your yea be yea, let your nay be nay." It should be upfront and clear. We should be absolutely disgusted by that which is evil, by that which is not of the Most High, breaking any of the laws, and we should cleave to that which is good, which the law is good. The law is perfect, as the Bible says. All right. Be kindly affectioned one to another with brotherly love and honor, preferring one another. Brotherly love. Again, the precept is 1 John 5:3. Following the law, statutes, and commandments is brotherly love. That's what it is. Our people don't know that. We think being in love is being really physically attracted to someone strongly. That's what we think love is. We think love is making me feel good. We think love is telling us things that gives us an emotional response. That's what we think love is. It is absolutely not giving me things that makes me feel better. We think it's love to celebrate birthdays because we think it's the opposite of love if someone has a birthday and we don't get them a gift. That's what our people think. Our people think if Christmas comes around and you ain't celebrating Christmas for your babies like it's all about the children, then you must not love them. No, that is wrong. That is wrong. Love is having the discipline and teaching your children that it's wrong to celebrate their birthday, that it's wrong to celebrate Christmas, that it's right to make sure you celebrate the Passover, the Feast of First Fruits, the Day of Atonement. Not so much for children with the Day of Atonement, but because they're not eligible for that. But teaching our children our heritage, that's love. Making sure they're participating, that's love. All right. Let me see. Every young rapper takes pride in unaliving, selling drugs. Young women are proud of 34 bodies and shaking their goodies. Exactly. Exactly. This is what our people are proud of now. They're not interested in what their history is. They're not interested in what our history is as a whole. It's just about what they want and what makes them feel good. And Sister Anna is laughing at me, I believe, for something. I don't know. I'm just joking. um, but yeah, Sister Raya is absolutely right. And it's not just this generation because I mean it seems to get worse with every generation, right? But this ranges from teenagers to 60, 70-year olds not being interested in what our history is, not being interested in what the driving forces were to get us here, not being interested in what the law says. And again, the better off we are as individually, the less likely we are to hear the truth of the Bible. The less likely we are to be interested in what our actual history is, because we get so disconnected from it, it doesn't even matter. That's what we tell ourselves. Well, it doesn't matter. None of that's affecting me in my life, which again shows a lack of concern and compassion and any care for your people. And then what we don't even think about is we're the only ones. Listen, 12 tribes of Israel is the only nation on the planet that has to worry about these type of things. You never hear uh, uh, the so-called Jewish man talk about how nobody needs to be thinking about the Holocaust. They hold on to that like listen, if you say anything that sounds like a derogatory statement in reference to that, it's going to be a problem. We all live in this wicked kingdom. Well, most of us anyway. I'm not sure who all is online, but we all, we live in here, and most of us went through the public school system. And what do they teach? Esau's history. They make sure they remember their history. They make sure we remember their history. But our people are not. No, we're not really concerned about it. All right. Now, today, I'm getting to the topic a little bit because today is one of Esau's favorite holidays. Who knows? Somebody tell me what it is. I might have got it from the title. Today is one of Esau's favorite holidays. Who can tell me what that holiday is? Give Sister Coco a hand. It's Columbus Day. Now, some of us are, may be aware of some of the history surrounding Columbus Day, or Columbus himself. But again, this goes back to how Esau feels about history versus us. Esau has convinced everybody in this country that Columbus discovered the Americas. Now, when you go into it, Columbus never set foot anywhere other than the Caribbean, but he discovered all of it, according to them. And that's what especially if any of us who came up in the public school system, that was one of the early things you learned about America. He discovered America. Then as we get older, we realize, well, wait a minute, there was already people over here. And then when you come into the truth, you realize it was our people over here. It was a northern tribe that was over here. So wait a minute, what did you discover exactly? But that's the baseline of the miseducation. That's the baseline of the lie that's told. Who can give me some other lies? Who can give me some things they either lie about when it comes to Christopher Columbus, or Some things that they just don't cover. Who might have some ideas? Who might have some ideas? Either one. Who wants to give it a shot? All right. Officer Yagadas says they omit the unaliving, torture, abuse, disease, and slavery. That's an all-encompassing answer right there. And he is absolutely right. They omit all of that. They omit all of that. Well, we're gonna get into some of it tonight. All right. So again, I'm gonna pull these articles up. I don't know how much y'all gonna be able to see. Y'all bear with me. All right. Let's see. Yeah, that's super small. All right. It says to celebrate Columbus is to celebrate a legacy of genocide, slavery, sexual abuse, and plunder. It commemorates the violent and bloody accumulation of capital for the ruling class and later the U.S. That tells you right there why it's so important for this nation to continue celebrating Columbus Day. That tells you right there why it was first even made into a holiday, because he represents the start and the backbone of the wealth that this country generated off the backs of the 12 tribes of Israel. All right. So Columbus's voyage was financed by the Spanish monarchy. Spain was a newly that's not where I want to go. Um, I'm gonna ask y'all a couple questions. Kind of like who realized that Columbus even discovering America was a complete accident? Give me a one if you knew that. Give me a two if you did not. Who knew that? And if you did know, let me see if you explain to me. Okay, no sweat. All right. Sister Raya said one. Oh, Salaki, that's Ruby Yagadah. Salaki, that's Yagadah's Officer Yagadah's rib. She said the man was lost. Okay. Sister Raya said one. All right. Triple Kazaki said one. Sister Na said two. No sweat. All right. He was lost in a certain sense, right? So when he left Spain, supposedly what he was trying to do is find a way around to get to Asia, so they would have a route by sea, and they wouldn't have to go across, Europe and Asia to get there. Okay, that was the idea. Everybody knew, not everybody. This was like his third or fourth time when Spain decided they were going to finance the trip. I think that was his fourth time asking a country. That was the second time he asked Spain. I mean, nobody wanted to finance the trip because everybody was like, "Your math is off. Your math is off. You're saying you're gonna get there too quick." And they were absolutely right, because no one knew this land and everything was over here. No one knew about the Pacific Ocean. Nobody knew about that. Well, he didn't know about that, but there were others that was like, I don't know about your math. Your math seems off. You seem like you're gonna get there too soon. So he said he convinced Spain. Okay, fine. Now we going. So when he got to the Caribbean islands, when he got to the Bahamas, it was an absolute accident. He didn't know where he was. He had no idea. He was looking to get to Asia. So when you say he was lost, to a certain extent, you're absolutely right because he had no idea where he was. He didn't know this land was over here. He didn't know none of that. All right. So that's why, like your sister, now that's why I would say it was really a complete accident. He was not trying to come here. He was trying to come somewhere else, and then just ran up on the islands. All right. Um, but as it says here, it says the purpose of the expedition was to establish an alternative trade route to the east and return with riches. Um, when he landed in the islands known as the Bahamas, Columbus encountered the Arawak Indians. The Arawak, they were also one of the 12 tribes of Israel. All right. Um, it says, whose kindness and generosity he noted in his journal and letters. Columbus quickly took a group of Arawaks captive, hoping they would lead him to gold. He then sailed to Hispaniola, or Haiti, and the Dominican Republic, where he enslaved more natives. After returning to Spain and reporting on the incredible wealth in the islands of the quote unquote New World, the monarchs gave Columbus 17 ships and more than 1,200 men to plunder the Caribbean. Um, his new expedition went from island to island, gathering slaves and gold, and with unprecedented brutality. That's what this nation celebrates. That's what this nation celebrates. Why would a nation celebrate something like that? Who can give me an idea of why that would be something to celebrate? Because don't get it confused. They're aware. We don't know this. Esau knows Columbus's history. Why would that be something to celebrate? All right. Sister Raya says it created their legacies. Yes. Give me a little bit more. All right. Sister Aisha says Thanksgiving and Christmas. I'm not sure what you mean by that, sis. I'm not sure what you mean by that, sis. Help me understand. All right. All right. Okay. I see your comment too, Officer Yagada. I'm gonna hold off on that one. Who has any idea? Why would it be important? Okay. Officer Yagadar's rib says they celebrate because it was family name start. Columbus? Not sure what you mean there, sir. Give me a little bit more. All right. Sister Ra'ah, you said it created their legacies. What do you mean by that? Okay, no sweat. No sweat, Sister Aisha. She said I really don't know about a lot of these holidays because my family never celebrated any of them. Well, rock that how White House shot. That is awesome for you, sis. That is great. That is to wow. Okay. Officer Yagadar says to mock us like a serial unalive keeping a trophy. I would not disagree with that. That's probably part of it. You're absolutely right. You're absolutely right. I tell you another reason, and we're gonna show it in a second. Christopher Columbus gave. Uh, hold on, hold on. Sister Aya says their offsprings are living off the success and money they have developed while taking our land and putting us into slavery. Gee, that is definitely right there on it. I'm gonna y'all give her a hand. They're beginning. they're beginning their opportunity to take over. Okay, y'all are saying, I believe Sister Raya and also y'all guys were saying about the same thing. And you all are right. Y'all are on it. Y'all are absolutely right. And the reality is when what Christopher Columbus did was show um, particularly those in America the blueprint. He gave them the blueprint to enslave the rest of the 12 tribes of Israel. That's exactly what he did. All right. Let's see. I'm going to go back to it. It says Columbus was the first European slave trader in the Americas. He is the father of the transatlantic slave trade. All right. Says he sent more slaves across the Atlantic than any individual of his time. Uh, about 5,000. That was more than any one individual had done. All right. Shalom, how about Shalom, Shalom? I'm seeing Rashamath in the building. Says he and his men captured and enslaved the Arawak people almost as soon as they landed. Some were sent to Spain, others served Columbus on the islands. 1496, this is 4 years after, right? It says Columbus jubilantly wrote Spain's King Ferdinand and Queen Isabella about the possibilities for exploitation in the West Indies. He wrote, quote, in the name of the Holy Trinity. Let's stop right there. Listen, Christianity is the worst. Christianity is an absolute, it's a drug, it's a lie. It's one of the worst things that happened to our people. Christianity is the worst. He said, in the name of the Holy Trinity, we can send from here all the slaves and Brazil wood which could be sold. We have everything as far as slaves. We got as many as you want in the name of the Holy Trinity. And people wonder why we go so hard against Christianity. It's because it has our people so blinded. They enslaved the 12 tribes of Israel in the name of the Holy Trinity. Right. Obviously, Uriah said he put that issue on God. That's what he wrote it. On God, I got all these slaves. Our people don't know this, so guess what? We be one of some of the biggest Christians in the world. Again, we was at a camp and grandma kept coming up about how she taught about Jesus. She taught everything about Jesus. My grandmama taught me about Jesus. Till we tell him Jesus was a black man. Well, wait a minute. I don't know about that. I heard he was. You not convinced? Big Mama told you gotta love everybody. Big Mama told you better be happy, girl. Big Mama told you to leave your man if you're not happy. Most I says you can't do that. Big Mama told you to celebrate your birthday, girl. Most I say you can't do that. But he put it on God. And you know what else Big Mama did? Big Mama went to church every Sunday. Every Sunday. Praying in the name of the Holy Trinity, which is how we were enslaved. All right, let's keep going. It says in Hispaniola, Columbus and the Spanish set up a system that made every Indian over the age of 14 responsible for gathering a certain amount of gold each month. They received a copper token to hang around their necks if they succeeded. And let me see if y'all, hopefully I ain't read that yet. Nah, I forget, I keep going. If they succeeded, they got a copper token around their neck. And if a native was caught without a token, the Spanish cut off their hands and let them bleed till they were unalive. In the name of the Holy Trinity, Christianity is worse than crap. So such murder and torture occurred frequently because the Spanish widely overestimated how much gold existed on the island. Gathering enough gold to satisfy the Spanish conquerors was an impossible task. This is why it's important to know our history. Because if you don't know how these oppressors operate, it didn't matter that there wasn't enough gold. It did not matter if there wasn't enough gold. Go get it or you'll be unalive. Go get it or you'll be no more. But there's not enough. You better go find it. If you don't know that, then when brothers and sisters, listen, when you say, brothers and sisters can't get jobs because people won't hire them, I've heard people say, I don't believe that. If they want to, there's enough jobs out here. If they want to go get a job, they can get a job. That's like saying if there's enough gold, you're gonna go find it. There's enough gold out here. We don't know how these oppressors operate because we're blinded to it because we want to be loved by them so much, or we just don't care. But in either case, it's a setup for our destruction. Just not being aware of what our history is. Let's keep going. So when it became clear that there was no more gold to take, the Spanish started a form of plantation slavery known as the encomienda. I believe it's how you pronounce it. The system thrived by working native slaves until they were unalive on large privately owned estates. What does that sound like? What does that sound like? So at first it was about getting all this gold. And then when they finally realized, hey, we don't have enough, there's not enough gold to be got. The island doesn't have enough. Like once they finally realized that, you know what, no problem. No problem. We'll have y'all work on these large privately owned estates. What does that sound like? Who can tell me what that sounds very, very similar to? Right, plantations here. Plantations here in America. Exactly what it was. All right? You obviously young darn head. It said sexual slavery was also widespread among the Spanish settlers. In 1500, Columbus wrote, now these are his words, 100 castellanos. A castellano is a measurement of gold. Okay? 100 castellanos are easily obtained for a woman as for a farm. Meaning, people are lining up. Acquiring a farm is on the same level as buying a woman. It is very general, and there are plenty of dealers who go out looking for girls. Those from 9 and 10 are now in demand. This was part of their economy. Selling 9 and 10-year-old girls because the demand was so high. And remember, this is all. Let me go back. This is all in the name of the Holy Trinity. The sexual abuse of 9 and 10-year-old girls are all in the name of the Holy Trinity. Oh, no sweat, sis. Salaki. Just like she was. Oh yeah, no sweat. You were just guessing because you don't celebrate in the holidays. No sweat. No sweat. I was so. I think that question you might have. I don't know if you maybe misheard me. Maybe the video cut out or something. But I was. The question initially was why would America decide to celebrate uh, Columbus Day, knowing because they're aware, knowing what his history is. All right. But I understand you say you don't celebrate the holidays, so you have no perspective on it. That is to wild. Absolutely. Just right. So they have always seen us as livestock. Exactly. Again, this was way before it got rolling in America. It was way before the system was really established in America. That's why Columbus is the father of the slave trade. He taught America how to do what was done as far as the slavery in this country and the history of it. All right. Um, it says a Spanish priest was sympathetic to the plight of the natives, described the terrible violence against them. Now, this priest's words. He said the Spanish rode the back of the natives as if they were in a hurry, and they thought nothing of knifing by tens and twenties, and the cutting and of cutting slices off of them to test the sharpness of their blades. Let me see how sharp this is. Come here. Absolutely vicious, bloodthirsty. This is a suppressant. So when the Arawaks tried to escape enslavement, they were hunted and unalive. This is Columbus, Christopher Columbus. This sounds like something that we would be teaching about the American slave trade and the things that our brothers and sisters endured here. This was before that was even uh, going, before that was even really a system. So the Spanish sent hunting dogs to rip them apart. When the Arawaks tried to organize armed uprising, they were crushed by the settlers' advanced weaponry. Arawaks taken prisoner in the battle were hanged or burned alive. What? We all know what that is. Somebody tell me what that is. Being hanged or burned alive. There's a particular word for that we use. Who wants to give it a shot? Absolutely. Officer Yagadak got it. He on it. As usual, lynching. Sister Raya said lynching. That's exactly what that is. This is Christopher Columbus and his crew lynching the Arawaks because they had the nerve to try to either run away or fight back for their freedom. Because many turned to suicide out of misery and desperation. The diseases brought by the colonizers rapidly felled the natives throughout throughout the Americas. Millions died from smallpox, influenza, viral hepatitis, and other illnesses. This is all now. This is including not just the Bahamas. Like I said, it was throughout the Americas. So this is including the tribes of Gad and Reuben and things of that nature. Absolutely, Sister Not also got it. Lynching. Absolutely, sis. All right. Says European rodents and livestock wreaked havoc on the ecosystem of the Americas, which sustained the native population. So we were subject to this in so many aspects of it. And again, two things can be true, right? Two things can be true. Part of it is true that this oppressor absolutely destroyed our people. The other part of it that's true is that we are in this situation and we're in this situation because we didn't follow the law, statutes, and commandments. Our people and our communities are destroyed the way they are now because we continue to not follow the law, statutes, and commandments. But that does not take away the evil wickedness of this oppressor that this country happily celebrates. All right? So it's a brutal legacy. Columbus and his followers massacred an entire people. Some estimate, and that's the interesting thing. Let me go back. Where was Officer Yagadar's Rocky? Officer Yagadar earlier said the Caribbean had 8 million Taino brothers and sisters in 1493, and by 1504, there were 100,000 of them brothers and sisters. That is an absolute genocide. And what's also interesting is you know, you all, as we continue to research this stuff, because it was so long ago, because the technology wasn't there, there are all these different numbers, right? There are all these different numbers as far as how many Arawak there was, how many Taino there was, how many came directly to North America versus South America versus Central America, as far as us being taken out of Africa. There are all these numbers, but and if I could suggest to anybody, never argue about numbers, the specifics of it necessarily. Because you might find a couple different sources that give you different numbers. But what's always consistent is that there were a whole lot of us either taken from the west coast of Africa here to all of the Americas. That's always consistent. It's a high astronomical number, larger than anything else in history. And in the brothers and sisters who were already here, it's always a large number that was then decimated. Always remember that. All right. A brutal legacy. So like it says, some estimate the pre-Columbian population in the island of Hispaniola alone was as high as 8 million, right? By 1516, the native population dropped to 12,000. Only 200 remained by 1542. Not one Arawak was left alive on the island by 1555. All right. Again, just decimated our people. Absolutely destroyed. All right. So the atrocities committed by Columbus and his men were by no means isolated occurrences. Columbus set the model for other Europeans who sought to dominate the quote-unquote New World. The same method of terrifying, enslaving, and slaughtering natives was employed by all explorers portrayed as heroes in U.S. history books. This is where they learned. The so-called founding fathers of the United States of America, this is who they learned their brutality from. This is how they learned to be such savages. They learned it from Columbus. Because in 1519, Spanish explorer Hernan Cortez and his fellow villagers waged a scorched earth campaign against the Aztec Empire, overcoming fierce resistance and looting everything they could find. Francisco Pizarro carried out similar extermination against the Inca Empire in Peru. Now here's the one. Captain John Smith from England helped colonize what is now the U.S. state of Virginia for profit. In 1624, he glowingly referenced the Spanish method for dealing with indigenous people. Quote, "You have 20 examples of the Spaniards and how they got the West Indies and forced the treacherous and rebellious infidels to do all manner of drudgery work and slavery for them themselves living like soldiers off the fruits of their labors." This is his quote. He said, you got plenty of examples from the Spanish method. Christopher Columbus, I believe, was Italian, but he was financed by Spain. This oppressor, this founding father of Virginia, said, here's your examples. This is where we learn how to do what we do. This is how we learn how to make sure that these enslaved people stay in line. And why not learn from them? They're all Edomites anyway. So slavery fueled capitalist profits. When it became clear that Indians were dying out too quickly to be useful, settlers turned to the transatlantic slave trade. Settlers reaped huge profits from African slaves, so-called African slaves, who were imported to provide labor to maintain colonies. Plantation slavery soon spread throughout the Americas, providing agricultural production for the colonizers at very little cost. Again, Columbus is the father of the transatlantic slave trade. It started because, man, these the indigenous people here are dying too quickly. We gotta go get some more. We gotta get some more people because we're gonna take all the resources of these lands. We're gonna have it's like these agricultural plantations, and we need somebody to work them. We need some people to work these, and these folks dying off too fast. Let's go get some more. That's how it began. So it is impossible, and again, this is another point. Is why arguing about numbers. All right, we just know they were huge, right? It is impossible to know how many so-called Africans were forced into slavery in the Americas from the time of Columbus to the 19th century. Slave traders would often record fewer slaves than they actually transported to keep insurance costs down. This whole thing is money and the hatred that stems from the wound between Edomites and Israelites. Says they also wanted to avoid criticism for exceeding the maximum capacity for their ships holds. For example, in 1788, a British House of Commons committee discovered that the slave ship the Brooks, built to carry a maximum of 451 people, had more than 600 so-called Africans on the Middle Passage. Slave traders failed to note when slaves died on the high seas due to the brutal and unsanitary condition of slave ships. Nearly 1 in 5 slaves died this way. So the slave trade provided the European and U.S. ruling class with centuries of free labor. Centuries of free labor. That's why. That's why the United States loves Christopher Columbus so much. Because he began something that provided this country with centuries of free labor. In the 1600s, the Spanish began using so-called African slaves in gold and silver mines. Most European colonies used the plantation system to produce sugar, cotton, tobacco, indigo, rice, and other crops to export to the European market. This process provided Europe with enough material wealth to spur the rapid advances in technology development and production known as the Industrial Revolution. We financed, not financed. We, if not for us, the Industrial Revolution would not have happened. Our labor, our free labor, centuries of it, provided the capital needed. Everybody benefits off of our slavery. Every nation benefits off of our slavery. Now, our primary oppressor is the Edomite, the so-called European, but every nation benefits off of our slavery. Says even today, some U.S. companies can trace their success and profits from slavery. A 2002 lawsuit against Aetna Insurance. Who's familiar with Aetna? Colorado. Who's familiar with Aetna? Anybody who may get their health insurance from their job might be familiar with Aetna. I had a slave. It's like you're a slave. I had slavery at one point where my insurance was Aetna. Right. Sister Nasa Khan, she familiar with it. Sister Raya said Khan. Sister Coco said Khan. Right. Officer Yagadar said Khan. Right. We're familiar with this. This is not a rare company. Right. Officer Yagadar's rib said Khan. Absolutely. We're familiar with Aetna. Because Aetna Insurance, CSX, and Fleet Boston sought reparations. A lawsuit against them sought reparations for so-called African American from these companies based on their participation in the slave system. Aetna made its money insuring slaves as the property for the slave owners. CSX is the present permutation of a company that used slave labor to lay railroad tracks. And Fleet Boston is a bank that was founded by a slave trader. This is why America celebrates Christopher Columbus. I looked it up. I want to say there's 10 to 15 other companies. Sisters, who's familiar with what is it? Tiffany and Company. Who's familiar with Tiffany and Company? Oh, no sweat, Troop. No sweat. Aetna is a current health insurance provider. They provide health insurance. Oftentimes, they have contracts with businesses, and they provide health insurance through the business. That's what they do. So if you sign up, there's a handful of companies. Obviously, if you sign up and you get insurance through your slavery, there's a handful of companies. Aetna is one of them that you might that somebody might uh, get their health insurance provided through, and they were insuring. As it says, they made their money insuring slaves as the property of the slave owners. All right. Yeah, I expected all the sisters to say so. I expected all the sisters to give me a call on that. Everybody, all the sisters are familiar with Tiffany and Company. Officer Yakadar says she has their chain. All right. Sister I said Tiffany, I think bracelets, but I think you're saying it costs the same as your rent. Absolutely. Absolutely. They have ties to slavery. That company has ties to slavery. I believe it was founded from a slave. No, it was back from um, it was back. One of the backing individuals was a slave owner, and that's how he made his money. These companies, and we won't know it. And then you'll hear people saying, "Well, that was a long time ago. That was a long time ago. Don't even matter now." It does. It does. I mean, why would you want to continue to get your money? And no shade to anybody, right? But I don't plan on going to buy no Tiffany nothing now. That's something I would encourage all of us to stay away from. Watch this, brothers in class. Who might be familiar with Brooks Brothers? Even the sisters. Who's familiar with Brooks Brothers? Who's familiar with Brooks Brothers? All right, Officer Yagadar said, Carl, he's familiar. Sister I said, Tommy Hilfiger? I'm not sure. Are you saying that he has ties? Maybe you're saying that he has ties to slavery as well. I'm not sure. You let me know. Officer Yagadar's rib says she's familiar. Khan. Sister I says she's familiar with Brooks Brothers. All right. Anybody who's not familiar with Brooks Brothers is a men's clothing store. All right. They sell so-called high-end, suits and things, business attire, things of that nature. It's all really for Esau, so they can go, um, they can go into their corporate offices and go golfing and all of that type of attire. Well, they also have ties to slavery because when you go back in history, there was a time that they made their money selling slaves' clothes. Now, the slaves weren't the ones buying the clothes; it was the slave owners went to Brooks Brothers so they could then get clothes for the slave. So they benefited off of our efforts as well as every other country. That's like every other business and every other nation. Absolutely. Okay, so Sister I is saying that Tommy Hilfiger also has ties. Okay, I'm gonna have to look that one up. I did not see that one. I did not see that one. All right. But yes, all of these different companies, and if y'all think about it, like I don't know so much now, but if I'm dating myself a little bit, but listen, in the late '90s and the early 2000s, Tommy Hilfiger was it. Tommy Hilfiger and Polo was it for brothers. If you didn't have one of the two, brothers might look at you sideways in the world, not having any idea of the history of these companies. Same with Tiffany and Company. Sisters love Tiffany and Company. Tiffany Blue, right? No understanding of the history of the company, right? And it's one of those situations where you can't beat yourself up for not knowing because you don't know a thing. You don't know a thing, but you can't. Once you find out, though, once you find out, and this is another reason why people, in my opinion, don't really want to know their history because, especially when you come get the truth of the Bible and the history of the Bible, now it requires you to do something. It requires something of you. It requires you to stop doing something that you may have been doing, and it requires you to start doing something that you may not. And no one wants that. Our people don't want that. Our people don't want to have to be required to do anything because the Christian church has told them that they're not. The Christian church has told them that the law is done away with. They don't have to worry about any accountability for anything. You can do whatever you want to do, whatever your heart desires. You can pray over this food that you should not be eating. You can ask Jesus for forgiveness, and you are going to heaven, which is some other place up in the sky. All of this alleviates the responsibility and the accountability to the Most High and His laws, statutes, and commandments. Sister Alice, that and your eight-ball jacket. Some of y'all may not get that, but if y'all want our age, the eight-ball jacket, listen, the eight-ball jacket back in the late '90s, early 2000s, you had an eight-ball jacket, an Averex. Listen, you had some stuff. I don't know what we was wearing back then. Terrible. All right, Sister Coco. I'm not sure what you are saying, Sister Coco. Let me know if that was if I see two plus signs. I'm not sure. All right, all right. So let's get some more on Christopher Columbus, right? Let's get some more on this person that is so supposedly controversial. They say he's controversial. Oh, we can't, that's why they made Indigenous Day, right? because he's so controversial. But they just shared. They didn't stop, celebrate. We still gonna celebrate. We still gonna have Christopher Columbus Day. We just gonna also have Indigenous Peoples Day, which is nonsense, right? Oh, no sweat, sis. No sweat. All right. It says 9 reasons Christopher Columbus was an unaliver, tyrant, and a scoundrel. Let's see. 1. Columbus kidnapped a Carib woman and gave her to a crew member to sexually assault. It says a quote from Michael de Cuneo, I'm not sure how to pronounce that, who participated in Columbus's second expedition to the Americas. This is somebody who was on his crew. It says, while I was in the boat, I captured a very beautiful woman, whom the Lord Admiral, which was Columbus, gave to me. Right? So Christopher Columbus gave this woman to his crew member. It says, when I had taken her to my cabin, she was naked, as was their custom. I was filled with desire to take pleasure with her and attempted to satisfy my desire. She was unwilling and so treated me with her nails that I wished I had never begun. So sister's fighting. That's what this means. He's trying to sexually assault her, and she is absolutely fighting back. So I then took a piece of rope and whipped her soundly, and she let forth such incredible screams, that you would not have believed your ears. Eventually, we came to such terms, I assure you, that you would have thought she had been brought up in a school for whores. This is Christopher Columbus' crew member describing what he did to a woman that Christopher Columbus gave to him. The absolute physical and sexual abuse, written firsthand. Keep going. On Hispaniola, a member of Columbus's crew publicly cut off and natives' ears to shock others into submission. Because after an attack by more than 2,000 natives, Columbus had an underling bring him 3 native leaders whom Columbus had ordered be publicly beheaded. This is Columbus. This is the one they celebrate. The underling also ordered his men to grab another native, bring him into the middle of his village, and cut off his ears in retribution for the natives failing to be helpful when the Spaniards were fording a stream. Fording a stream is like wading through a high stream. They were trying to get from one side to the other, and because he felt like they didn't help enough, he cut off the ears. That was after Columbus said, take those 3 heads off. He discovered America. He has an official holiday. 3. Columbus kidnapped and enslaved more than 1,000 people on Hispaniola. According to Cuneo, Columbus ordered 1,500 men and women seized, letting 400 go, and condemning 500 to be sent to Spain, and another 600 to be enslaved by Spanish men remaining on the island. About 200 of the 500 sent to Spain died on the voyage and were thrown by the Spanish into the Atlantic. This is again the beginning of the transatlantic slave trade. He started sending them over, wrote them a letter. I got plenty more, and I'm not going to be able to get into it tonight. I'm not going to be able to get into it tonight. I'm not sure if I'm going to catch up next week, but what you eventually had when the Arawak and the Tainos, when they decimated them so much, it got to the point that they started asking, hey, can we just go get people straight from Africa? Because there was a practice initially to take us from Africa into Spain, and then bring them over to Hispaniola. So they rode directly to the king. No, we don't want to do that. We want to take them straight from there to here. And there's your transatlantic slave trade from the Caribbean to Europe, Europe to Africa, Africa back here. All right, let's keep going because again, this is who this is who this is who this oppressor celebrates. All right, Columbus forced Indians to collect gold for him or else die. We just read this in the last one. Columbus ordered every native over 14 to give a large quantity of gold to the Spanish on pain of death or unaliving. Those in regions without much gold were allowed to give cotton instead. That's the transition from gold and silver to agriculture. Participants in the system were given a stamp, copper or brass token. We read that in the previous article to wear around their necks, and what became a symbol of intolerable shame. They were given a token to wear around their necks as if it was something, a prize. So it became a shameful thing in the eyes of the natives, and it became a thing to quickly show whether you had met your quota or not for the Edomites. There's about 50,000 natives committed mass suicide rather than comply with the Spanish. As the Indians destroyed, it's like the natives destroyed their stores of bread so that neither they nor the invaders would be able to eat it. They plunged off cliffs, they poisoned themselves with roots, and they starved themselves until they were unalive. Oppressed by the impossible requirement to deliver tributes of gold. Again, there was no perspective on how much gold. No, they had the wrong perspective on how much gold was on the island. But go get it, or you're going to be unalived. It's the same thing that this country does now with its workforce. Listen, if you have any type of slavery, you know it's a constant. They constantly want more and more and more because that's the nature of this oppressor, to do just that, oppress, and to get as much out of an oppressed people as they possibly can. It's the only reason that there is a minimum wage, because if they could pay you less, they would. Let's keep going. The oppressed, oppressed by the impossible requirement to live gold, the natives were no longer able to tend to their fields and care for their sick, their children, or their elderly. They had given up and committed mass suicide to avoid being unalived or captured by Christians. Remember, this started early. In the name of the Holy Trinity. They would unalive themselves in order to avoid being captured by Christians. Now, our people love Christianity to death. In the name of the Holy Trinity, they enslaved and unalived and sexually abused our people. These people unalived themselves because they didn't want to be caught by Christians. And to avoid sharing their land with them, their fields, groves, beaches, forests, so on and so forth. All right. Number 6, remember it was 9 of them. So it's 56 years after Columbus's first voyage, only 500 out of 300,000 natives remained on Hispaniola. Population figures from 500 years ago are necessarily imprecise, which is what we were saying earlier. Right? You never want to get to arguing too much about numbers, specific numbers. All right. It says, but Bergreen estimates, which is a person who wrote a book where these excerpts are coming from, estimates that there were about 300,000 inhabitants on Hispaniola in 1492. Between 1494 and 1496, about 100,000 died, half due to mass suicide. In 1508, the population was down to 60,000. By 1548, it was estimated to be only 500. It says, understandably, some natives fled into the mountains to avoid the Spanish troops, only to have dogs set upon them by Columbus's men. Number 7 talks about how he was even cruel. So once he got to the Bahamas and the Caribbean, they started colonizing just like they did here. And what we didn't go into another article on that, one of the biggest things that one of the reasons why he really wanted to make this journey, this discovery or whatever, is because the deal that he had with the Spanish monarchy was that any land that he found, he would run it under their flag. He would be the governor and run it, and he would get 10% of all the plunder. So of all the gold, that's why even up to this point, it didn't say anything. This article didn't talk about how much he got. It talked about how much was supposed to be going back to Spain. He got 10% of everything. 10% of everything that was stolen from these lands. So that's why I don't care. Go get me more gold or you'll be unalive. All right. But because he ran the colonies, this even talks about how he was horrible to his own people. Because that's what this wicked oppressor is. Let's see. It says Columbus' rule over Spanish settlers was so brutal. He ordered at least a dozen Spaniards to be whipped in public. I'm sorry, this is kind of funny to me because that's this Esau's problem. It's between y'all family. I'm just gonna laugh at this. All right. It said whipped in public, tied by the neck, and bound together by the feet for trading gold for food to avoid starvation. This is his people. He's this is his people. You just starve. Give me my gold. He ordered a woman's tongue cut out for having spoken ill of the admiral and his brothers. He's the admiral. He's the admiral. You gonna speak ill of me? Cut her tongue out. This is who they celebrate. Another woman was stripped and placed on the back of a donkey to be whipped as punishment for falsely claiming she was pregnant. He ordered Spaniards to be hanged for stealing bread. I'm sorry. That's that's Esau's problem. So that's all kind of funny. All right. Number 8. We're gonna get to number 9 and we're gonna get y'all up out of here, all right? If anybody got any questions, anything like that, y'all just go ahead and put them in the chat. All right. Settlers under Columbus sold 9 and 10-year-old girls into sexual slavery. We talked about that in the first article. Because this one he admitted himself in a letter to Doña Juana, a friend of the Spanish queen. Says there are plenty of dealers who go out looking for girls. Those from 9 and 10 are now in demand, and all other ages, a good price must be paid. This is his words. This is who has a holiday. Number 9, Indian slaves were beheaded for when their Spanish captors couldn't be bothered to untie them. Benjamin Keene, a historian of the Spanish conquest of the Americas, noted that multiple sources confirmed accounts of exhausted native carriers chained by the neck whose heads the Spaniards severed from their bodies so that they might not have to stop to untie them. This is what happened under his watch. This is Christopher Columbus, the absolute father of the American slave trade. He stumbled on it because he wasn't that bright. He did not know that his calculations were off. So he stumbled upon the Caribbean islands. There's other, you know what? I gotta get some more of this. Hold on, because there's other quotes that I gotta make sure y'all understand. Salakia. Bear with me. Here it is. Here it is. That scripture that says that the words are smooth as butter. Listen, when he came into contact with the brothers and sisters on Hispaniola, let's see how they treated him. Let's see how they treated him. It says when Columbus first stepped foot on Hispaniola, he encountered a population of indigenous people called the Taíno. A friendly group, they willingly traded jewelry, animals, and supplies with the sailors. This is his quote. They were very well built and very handsome bodies, with very handsome bodies and very good faces, Columbus wrote in his diary. How is that even to describe a people? Well built. They do not carry arms or know them. They should be good servants. The indigenous people were soon forced into slavery and punished with the loss of a limb or unaliving if they did not collect enough gold. Again, this is very consistent. A portion of which Columbus was allowed to keep for himself. That's their 10%. Between the Europeans' brutal treatment of their and their infectious diseases, within decades, the Taino population was decimated. Again, but even when he showed up, one of the first things he thought was, they'll make good servants. I can enslave these people. And then you fast forward that, like we said, the founding fathers of this country, America's founding fathers, decided, you know what, we're going to learn from him. We're going to learn and make that system even worse until we have enjoyed centuries of free labor, centuries of building wealth. Then we'll couple that with another 100 years of sanctioned, legal, mistreatment and oppression. And then when that's over, see, it's been about 50, 60 years. I'm going to claim this Esau will claim, well, now it's all good. Now everything's fine. No, we are still under oppression. We are still under oppression. That's why the prison system is what it is. We've had these conversations before. We've talked about this stuff before. That's why the 13th Amendment is written the way it is. Between this country and Europe, whether it be France, Spain, Britain, the labor and efforts of the 12 tribes of Israel has benefited this entire planet. All right, with that, we're going to read these security announcements. I don't see no questions. Let's see. Y'all bear with me. All right, we got an ISUPK started on 1 West 125th Street, Harlem, New York. Rule for new brother and sister. When a new brother or sister comes into the school, they are off limits for 6 months. They are to be saluted only. They are here to shed themselves of the world. If they need transportation, the teacher will arrange it. After 6 months, if a brother or sister has an interest in a particular person, he or she must get permission from the head to speak to a brother or sister. There's another 6 months. There's another 6 months in which the brother and sister will court each other. After this 6 month period, the brother and sister will get permission from the head to marry. Tithes, which is a commandment. It's in Numbers 18 and 21 or Malachi chapter 3, verses 8 through 10. It means tenth in the Hebrew. It is pronounced ma'ashara. 10% of every penny of any increase the Lord gives you. You can give it to the Treasury Department. You can also go to isubk.com and pay through PayPal. All right. Priest fund is a free will offering to priests, not mandatory whatsoever amount you would like. Salakia, upcoming high holy days. Give me 1 second. I believe the next one is the Feast of Dedication. Hanukkah, I need to get that date. So like, oh, the water sis, the water Officer Yagadar. So like, Officer Yagadar, if you have the date for the Feast of Dedication, if you have it, can you put it in the chat real quick? If not, no sweat. All right, I appreciate it. Um, and Yeah, and lastly, if any brother wants to become a trooper in the school, he needs to be in all black. That's black boots, shirts, pants, headband, and war scarf. Make sure you get in contact with your school in your area. Obviously, if you are in Virginia, it will be Officer Urash Ahmad or Captain Natazak Shah. You want to let them know that that's something you want to do. All right. And with that, I'll give a courtesy salute to the brothers. Shalom Yahweh Shem Shabbat to the sisters. Shalom Yahweh Shemala Thun by Shem Yahweh Shai. Shalom Israel. Oh, the water. See, obviously y'all can always be here. All right. December 7th is the next high holy day. I almost missed it. Almost ended class there. Yeah, so that's the Feast of Dedication of Hanukkah. All right, December 7th. I'm sure we will have more information as we get closer to that date. All right. Shalom. Yes, the Feast of Dedication. The water, brother. All right. Shalom, Israel.